All right, next up under the Options menu, we're going to take a look at Annotations, the play meters, time display, and video. These are commands that basically are giving you choices of toggling things on or off, or some different ways of looking at your information as it relates to your file. Let's take a look. All right, we've got one of our typical sample files open here. Let's go under the Options menu and first look at Annotations. Right now everything's selected, and let me show you with the markers kind of what I'm referring to here and what they mean by annotations. For example, right now, if I go in here and where my cursor is at, I drop a marker by hitting the M key. It drops a marker and it drops a label in the marker. If I move my cursor to another location, drop another marker, it drops a marker in again with another label. And the labels are numbered sequentially and keep incrementing by units of 1. And that's something you can set up in the preferences. We'll look at that a little bit later. And let me go ahead and delete these right now. So under Annotations, if I get rid of marker names, then if I go ahead and drop a marker again, you notice there's nothing there. No marker name whatsoever. The marker is still there, and I can move the marker around, but no marker name. And I can go in and edit it, and I can name it here still by right-clicking on it, but it doesn't just automatically drop one in. Now, the other thing is that you notice when I drop a marker here, it leaves a marker line, the dotted line that it puts across the screen so that I can kind of see where my spot is and stuff. Well, let's say I don't like the lines, and I just don't like the way that it's too distracting, or it's making it difficult for me to see my waveform or whatever. I can also decide to turn off the marker lines. And as you can see now, I've just got a marker, and the line appears kind of as a shadow when I drag it, but when I actually let it go, it disappears. So I have the choice of turning that on and off as well too. Additionally, it's the same with region names. So if I create regions and the region lines that it leaves behind, same with loop names and loop lines. So basically all the same in terms of the annotations, and it applies not only to the markers, but it applies to regions and to loops as well. Next up is the play meters. Now you've got your play meters over here on the side, and you do have some options for them. One of them is that you can size them yourself, so you can make these things as small or big as you want. You can really see that you have flexibility with the meters, so you can make them different sizes, and that's just kind of stuff you can do by just dragging the window. But you also have choices in terms of resetting the clip level. So if you've clipped and it's holding the clips and peaks, you can reset that by just hitting it the reset button there, basically. So if I hit play again here in my file, it's showing me that I was clipping at 0 there. Let's find something a little bit quieter. Reset. This is just a quick tip. All right, so we see now that our meters peaked out at -3.5 in the left channel and -3 in the right channel. So again, I can go back in and reset that, and it just sets them back to 0. I also have a choice of choosing what my peak range is. Right now it's -90 to 0 dB, but I could set it, lower, could set it higher, so it's a much more narrow range of the meters. It just depends on what kind of sound you're working with, what kind of sound you're editing. Again, this is a preference choice. The default is -90 to 0 dB. And then you have a choice of kind of what the meters, the scale that they're actually using. Traditional meters, you have extended, which is the normal ones and kind of the default. You can choose whether it shows labels or not. Turn off the labels if you want to. You just want to look at the meters just to see the actual meters themselves. But you can choose what kind of scale you want to hear, whether it's UK. There's other standards depending on where the audio comes from in the world, as a matter of fact, too. So I mean, there's lots of different choices you have there. You have different kinds of ways you can look at the meters as well, too. You can show VU and PPM. I can show the labels, and so then this is just a quick test showing how you can take voiceovers or some other. So you've got a lot of flexibility in terms of what you want to see as the meters themselves. If I don't want to show that, I just want to show just the VU meters. This is just a quick test showing how you can. So you've got a lot of choices there, and you can always put this command on too. So for example, right now, you can make it so that they're always on top, so that the meters will always hide a file, and that way then you'll always be able to see your meters no matter what's going on or how many files you've got open. Time display is talking about basically what the time display window is going to be showing. So if you have the time display window open, right now it's displaying position. So if I play the file, this is just a quick test showing, it's just going to show me the position. If I had some sync or trigger events, if I was like triggering a MIDI device or something like that, I could choose to have it show that. I could also choose to have it show me the playlist position. So in this particular file, I have a bunch of different playlists, and it can show me the playlist position that is the current one that that I'm looking at in here. So you have some flexibility with what you can do with the time display as well too. All right, and the last thing we're going to look at is some of the options under video. First of all, we're going to pull up our video preview, and we've got that pulled up here. It's going to show us a preview of what our video file is up here, and depending where the playback head is, you can see how it's moving around. My options are, I have choices for, I can copy the frame if I wanted to use, for example, capture a still frame of this to use someplace else, or paste it into, let's say, a acoustic mirror thing I was using or whatever. I can change the background color behind it. It also changes up here in the thumbnails as well. I can change it to black, or I can change it to white, just depending, I guess, on what my content is. I usually go with the default. Additionally, I can choose whether the strip that's up there with the waveform will animate or not. So as I play, and you watch, me down here talking, you can actually see that up here it'll animate as well too.
Thanks, Joe. Now here's a segment on extracting.
And it kind of changes from frame to frame, and it kind of jumps around, and
Thanks,
you can
Joe.
see the playback head is actually moving through each frame there, and each of the film strip frames and counting off as it goes, and you can see the continuous action down here, but it animates the frame up here. Additionally, I can also add in the frame numbers. So it gives me the frame numbers for wherever the playback head is at that particular moment. And in this case, it's showing me the frame numbers at the beginning of each of these frames that's up here. But what's kind of cool is if I hit play and I have animated selected, the frame numbers will actually animate as well too as they go through the frame.
Thanks, Joe. Now here's a segment on extracting.
Not too good of an acting talent there, but you get the idea. Integral stretch basically is just if you're wanting to get your footage to be the largest size it can be, so you can stretch it and it'll stay proportional. And also then we also have simulate device aspect ratio. So it's guessing whether it's 16:9 and taking a look at that and simulating that in the frame in the preview window down here. And if you have an external monitor attached, and it doesn't here, but it pops up the preferences window. So if you do, you can choose it here, and then like right here it's saying looking for a FireWire compliant external monitor, and you can then have that external monitor play your video source as you're working on the audio stuff here as well. The last selection, and we're going to, we actually see it here in the time display. We see it here in time display, and we see it in video, is passive update. And what passive update's really referring to is it's talking about the fact that if you're running SoundForge on a really slow CPU and you're running, let's say, big video files or maybe even stuff at HD resolution or something like that, passive update basically is telling SoundForge that, only update the video or only update the action and various, things that you have turned on when the CPU is, not working as hard to keep up on things. So primarily, you really don't want to mess with passive update unless you're working specifically with a really slow CPU or an older PC or something like that.